right. And here we are, ready to have a little fun talking about some swimming. Perfect timing for me.
I say, like
I've made my commitment.
As usual, without even talking to you. It's May 7th, the year. It's 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron Podcast, and this is episode 766.
Yeah. And, you posted a question about swimming, I think, right? And then...
feel it coming through the vibes from up north.
Yeah. Yesterday was my commitment to either get in or on the water every day. And because I tried that.
Water.
Yeah. Well, that could be kayaking or something, but
hey, listen, the water's a spiritual place. And it's good for all people.
Yeah, it was spiritual. It was
spiritual awakening.
It was like more like the burning depths of hell for me yesterday, but it was something, man. But I know what I was getting into, and you don't swim in a while, man. You lose it.
Well, and I mean, if we're being honest here, you don't swim for a while is one thing, and then you don't swim for a while and you hop right into open water with fairly chilly temps. That's just, I mean, you're going from A to Z. There is no like, I'll go to the pool, splash around for a little bit, wade my way in. You just went. You just ripped the Band-Aid right off. There was no gradual tear there.
Yeah, no, I know. I did exactly that at the pool about 2 months ago. I don't think that counts.
For you, it's all right. Didn't count. Yeah.
Oh man, it felt good though. It was mid 60s. It's perfect.
Man, I was thinking about that. So one day last week, I got to reminiscing back to the days where we'd show up at Anderson Road Beach 3 times a week, and just how like even when that was like the darkest of the days that I was living in.
It might have been mine too, actually.
Yeah, both of ours, right? And honestly, I think half the people that showed, we had like 20, 30 people there, and now like knowing who they are now, like they're probably going through some shit too. I mean, we all are, but like how that, I can't imagine starting a day off any differently. Like if I had to pick a way to start the day off, you walk out there, the sand, totally quiet, no phones, no emails, no alerts, no city, lights and horns and sounds and traffic. It's just total silence. You got the water, you got the sun coming up, and it was just with people that you're like-minded and excited and ready to do the same thing that you're doing on a, Thursday morning work week, right? Work day at 6 a.m. And it was just like how much I loved starting my day off that way, and just how invigorating doing stuff like that is just so good it's such a tone setter.
It is, dude.
Which is, I think, it's just something I've been trying to be more mindful of is the way that I set my tone for the day, and how, and this isn't the topic, but we could definitely make it one for a different day. But, my first inclination of my day is to get up and immediately work. And like, I wake up, I grab coffee, and, if I'm up at like yesterday, I'm up at 4:15, which is so stupid. And I was so pissed. I got up, had to pee. It is generally game over, because then I started thinking about, it's a Monday, right? And I'm thinking like, golly, like this is, not hardest day, but yeah, kind of hardest day of the week. You're looking back to the weekend, you're reading through comments, and I spend the first hour and a half of my day before I even have breakfast, and sometimes even like socializing with my family because they're still asleep, working, reading into other people's lives and training and doing emails and comments, and then last night I ended my day with playing tennis at 8 p.m. and I was destroyed. I was so tired, and I was driving home and I was like, you know what? Doing something like this is probably a better way to start my day, not end my day, because it energizes me and gives me energy, which is, as you know, is like for me, I'm super, I'm a guy that likes to be in bed at, 8 o'clock. So, instead of being in my pajamas last night, I am, walking onto the tennis court under the lights. And then I was wired. Didn't go to bed till like 11:30. And I was like, that's, as we just kind of talked about before we went live, is like trying to find nature's caffeine in what we do and what we choose to kind of spend our days with. And a lot of times that is just the best way to go. So anyway, that was just a quick little tidbit about that, but I get it. And I think it's what you're doing right now is a great way to get out there. And if you can be on the water every day, kudos to you.
Yeah, thinking back to those days and how I got there at 6 o'clock 3 days a week is just amazing. It was like 35, 40-minute drive too for me.
For sure. For you,
And
yeah, you made the haul.
so I was swimming at 6. So, boy, that was a challenge. But I hated it, man. I just like getting up and I just was like, because I go to bed, I'd probably be doing what you did. I was on the bike or playing tennis till 11 and getting up at 4:30. And swimming, and I hated it. But when I got done, it was always the best feeling in history. It just changed everything. You're done by 7, and just got some good swimming in with that sunshine and oh man. So yeah, it's just getting there. It's just I don't know. That's life's biggest challenge. I'm telling you, just doing it, but just getting to the doing it.
Getting in and doing it.
Yeah, getting to the doing it.
That's right. Yeah, it's like just kind of like our topic for today. We'll go a little more in depth though, as we'll cover the Facebook questions. But before we get into that, it's your first time tuning in today. Welcome. We appreciate your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Time as we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open and honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. He and I also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. We work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes in the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to world championships, and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion today. We also like to utilize our Facebook group, like we will today. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource in a space and sport that is oftentimes way overcomplicated and way too confusing. This is a solid space to get actionable information in a sport where most of us have made these mistakes, and we can help you avoid a lot of those. We've had a lot of traffic in there the last few weeks. A lot of times when we do race prep email or podcast, we get a lot of influx. So if you're new in there, pop in, participate. Don't be a lurker, be a participant. And like we mentioned previously, we go in there at least once a month, maybe every 3 to 6 weeks, depending on what we're feeling, and take the pulse of the community like today and see what we can do for you. Mike and I love to just riff on life and topics and what we're going through and have general laid back discussions, but we also recognize that the sport is a mystery and it's frustrating. So taking some personal questions from our listeners is also a great way for us to get back to you for being so loyal to us. And so hopefully we can do that again today. But that is it. We have no sponsors. We have no ads, but we do have an agenda. That's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know how we're going to start this. I forgot what the exact question was. Are we going to answer particular questions or just,
yeah, so
it's all about swimming.
Big questions. Yeah, usually we pop in and we just do a little bit of Q&A, and you guys can just ask us anything and everything from what is Mike's favorite cereal all the way up through the perfect cadence for cycling at a certain distance. But today I thought we might streamline things. Maybe we'll make this kind of a little of a series. We'll do a bike specific one or a run specific one here over the next few weeks. But today is all about swimming. And again, we have our very popular How to Not Suck at Swimming podcast series. But today I posted in the Facebook group because we've getting a lot of feedback from our athletes have been positive, but also we know that athletes struggle with this. Lots of athletes struggle with this. And I just titled it, Swimming is a Mystery for Many Triathletes, yet we consistently have athletes coming out of the water in the top 10 overall and loads of top 10 age group swims at major races. For today's Q&A, what are some of your biggest questions or frustrations around getting better at swimming? And I think it's probably the latter that starts first, as people get super frustrated with their inability to get better and then have questions about why, which just kind of like quickly perusing through, that is a huge thing, I'll lay this out as a preface. There is no excuse, period, why people cannot get better at swimming. There is no genetic excuse. There is no, this is how my body is shaped and made excuse. there is no excuse. You should be able to get better at swimming. You may have tried 17 different ways, but a lot of times, and this is what I find, and we'll probably talk about here in a minute, but a lot of times you try things maybe in the wrong order, or you try things separately, not as collectively. And that is a reason why you don't get better. A lot of people have the recipe and the answers are out there. It's just how you put them together, when you put them together, and the structure behind that, they kind of unlock things. So that's the topic for today. I'll read off the first question unless you have any initial input. I mean, I'm talking to one right now. You're an adult onset swimmer.
Yes.
And you've conquered that. Still have some open water fear here, and not fear, but or anxiety, but just an extra layer of focus that you need to have, I think, when you enter the open water and races from not doing this. But again, like kind of going back, and you kind of rip the Band-Aid off, by hopping in the open water and not going to the pool to kind of start your swim training back. You did that as an early swimmer back in the day, like the previously referenced open water swims. Like, you were just getting into the sport and learning how to swim, and instead of spending 2 or 3 days at the pool piddling around, floating with the the aqua jog ladies and getting in 800 yards and resting for 45 minutes in between two 100s, you were out there 2 or 3 times a week swimming very hard in open water in a very uneasy environment. And I think that was also a huge reason why you were able to be so successful at a course like Ironman Wisconsin in your first full. And back then was a mass start.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm very cozy in water now. Just it's taken a long time, but back then it was definitely for me, that was just about being comfortable, and the way we did it, the way you pushed us, the way we swam hard and went after it, and there's a lot of contact in our training, and it just it definitely got me through that first Wisconsin and many subsequently since. I really haven't had too many problems since then, but for before that, with certain races, I was having major anxiety problems, and it was all just, sort of my comfort and just, overhype, situation in my body, and I just got outside of myself. But now I'm pretty cool with it. I wouldn't say I've gotten a lot faster, but I'm pretty comfortable now.
Yeah, I would agree. First question from Amy Morgan Taylor. I'm not sure if this is a question or more of a statement, but I feel like I'm doing all the things right: hand entry, high elbow, pulling through the water, good timing, rotation, and yet I'm still slow as molasses. And I can't seem to really get any better from a speed perspective. I've had lessons, underwater video, all the toys and drills, you name it, but it just seems impossible to get better. One of the recent podcasts talks about adults who learned to swim at zero, some background as a child, and how difficult it was, and maybe just that. Totally agree. A lot of athletes, you aren't alone, Amy Taylor. A lot of athletes struggle with this. And you kind of like listed all the things out that everyone has access to. And I think one of the hardest things for athletes, or for triathletes coming later on to swimming, is one, this is a non-technical thing, but it's also attitude. If you think you can get better at swimming, you make the time and you get better at swimming. Now, you can have underwater video, toys, drills, high elbow, pulling through the water, good timing, rotation. If those are all correct, then there's no reason to be as slow as molasses, right? Even if it's a fitness thing, right? And that might be it. But a lot of times when people have all these things done right, they're still doing some things wrong. And I think that's one of the most difficult things about swimming and how you organize your sets is you can do, because it is so technical, right? Like you can check boxes. If there's a 5-box checklist of all the things you might be doing right, and you check off the first 4 boxes, and you're doing them all pretty correct. No one's perfect, but you're doing pretty correct. But your 5th one is glaringly terrible. There is a high likelihood that glaringly terrible technique or flaw or timing or, kick or a stroke deficiency is totally canceling out the rest. And so I think that's a huge deal. People love to break swimming down into 6 or 7 specific drills or sets or focuses. And that's just not the way to do it. Like one of the ways that we program swimming is one thing for a certain block of time and then get it right. And then another thing for a certain block of time. But also, if one thing clicks for an athlete, then you click. Most swimmers, honestly, you spend way too much time trying to change things and to just get better with the stroke rate, with the form, with the stroke, with the length of stroke, with the recovery, whether it's straight arm or you spend so much time trying to overcorrect. To me, it's very, very similar to running. A lot of athletes, like to me, you just run a certain way, period. You just run a certain way. And a lot of athletes spend so much time to correct their run form. They don't get better at running, and then they end up getting hurt, or they don't get, and they just actually regress because they're not getting in the running, and they're not using the natural run form that they have. Now you can watch any race from sprint up to marathon trials, and everyone has a different run form. And it's insane how different everyone is. So a lot of times, but again, yes, you can have one thing to focus on, but a lot of times people focus on too many things, and you become a jack of many trades to where you're just kind of okay at a lot and you're not great at one. And again, like I said before, a lot of times it's putting all the pieces together. But whether you're an adult, whether you are an experienced swimmer, there's always something to do. And as we'll talk about here, I think, and seen a lot of questions about, a lot of times you can do that by slowing down and focusing. A lot of swimmers just swim to swim. And also what you think you might be doing right, you might be doing wrong. And while I think underwater video is helpful, there are a lot of different ways to critique strokes. But I will say that there are ways to program as well that you don't need underwater video, and you don't need a ton of toys and a ton of drills. And honestly, a lot of times people are just trying too hard to swim too well instead of just trying to get some of the basics right and get fit with those and branch off. And I would say, again, if you're stagnant, you haven't gotten better in 2 to 3 years, and you're swimming a lot, again, let's just call it like it is. If you're not swimming 2 to 3 times a week, 3 times a week consistently for months and months and months and months and months, you're not going to get better. I'm sorry. You're just not. And then that also doesn't include, well, I really focus on it for 3 months and then I don't swim over the off season and I come back. No, you're not going to get better. You start over. Period. You're just not going to get better. Like it's funny, people think like they can actually get better that way. You have to be consistent with it and focus on it. And no, I don't believe it is a well, I just lack no, everyone can find the ability. Most people have proven it. We've proven it. If you have the willingness to take the time and put forth the patience and the intent of what each session should be, then everyone can get better. And I really think there is an answer out there for everyone in terms of how to get better at swimming. But again, like I said before, you can think you're doing, to me, a lot of people have tunnel vision. I'm doing this and this right, but I can't figure out when I'm getting faster. And what happens is a lot of times in your effort to do 1 or 2 things right, you compromise doing something else very, 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 very wrong. And that bad habit you just picked up on, or that good habit you now let fall to a bad habit, is now canceling out completely what you've done. And that is a huge issue that I see in swimming, which is why we really try to connect all the links in the chain from front to back, as you kind of work with athletes and getting them better in swimming.
Yeah. And you've always kind of taught the general, there's not a ton. I mean, there's a million mechanical things we can talk about in swimming. And if you're a adult onset swimmer, somebody picked it up kind of late, didn't grow up doing it. I always say it's like, we grew up running around the neighborhood and riding bikes a lot, but a lot of us, we flopped around in the pool and laid on the side and, checked out but we didn't swim. And I just think that you can't, it's almost impossible to sort of catch up on that to some level. I mean, some people can do it, but it's just not really in our system. And I've done a lot of, I've tried a lot of new things in my life. And one of them I've talked about many times is drumming. And I just, right when you're talking about that, that's all I could think about, was because when I started playing drums, I was trying to learn all the techniques and all the drills and try to get my body, my limbs separated and, that pat the head, rub the stomach kind of stuff. And there's so much of that. It's limb separate independence and flow. And, like people could watch me drum, or you can watch somebody that's a sort of a new drummer that picked it up late, and you can see them thinking. You can watch them think. They're thinking about it, and that's the worst musician there is. It's somebody who's thinking and not feeling. And that's what I think about, or I try to think about when I'm in an analogy to the water, is when I swim a lot, I feel like I have decent form when I understand what decent form is. Now, can I hold it a long time? And you mentioned that, which is a huge part of it, is being able to have a decent form and be able to be fit enough to hold it. That's a huge challenge. So what we really want people to stop doing is thinking about every stroke having a high elbow all the time and just actually swimming. I think that's what happens a lot of times when people get stuck, is that they're just still trying to perfect every little thing, and they're not actually just flowing through the water. They're fighting the water, or they look at the water as a enemy and not an asset, and using the water and being a part of what's that?
Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it. I mean, you and I commented all the time when we have these swim camps and tri camps, or we have these pool sessions, is a lot of time we do these one-on-one stuff. I'm like, I can see you thinking. I can see, like, back in like the day, you had the VH1, what were those called? Like the videos where they would, the thoughts and, like, the stats would pop up during each video. They're called pop-up videos. And VH1 had them. And I can literally see that with a lot of athletes. Like, I can see you thinking through the 19 different steps you think you need to swim right. And a lot of times, I noticed this a ton at the camp we just did in Texas. A lot of times I tell you might think you are swimming hard, but if you are swimming at a 210, 220, 240 pace, you are not swimming hard. I guarantee you your stroke rate is too slow. 100%. It's too slow. You might, again, and swimming is very difficult. I always like use the analogy. Like, a lot of people when they swim, they think that it's like a dancing. They think they're dancing like Beyonce, but in reality, if you take a video, they look like Elaine from Seinfeld on the dance floor. Like, that's how different people look, and they think they're swimming fast. And we'll do that. We'll say, hey, all right, swim to me, and then everybody will watch. All right, and I'll go back and move your arms as fast as you possibly can. They go out and they do it, and they get done, and I'm like, how fast did you feel like your arms were going? Oh man, that was a full speed. And everybody says they weren't. You were still moving them super, super slow. And that's just a huge disconnect in perceived efficiency and effort in what you see, which is why you do need somebody that knows what they're looking at and knows what they're talking about to give you these. But again, you can have 45 different lists of things to do right, but a lot of times it's not about the facts. It's about how they are explained to you and how it can make sense to you to do it right. Because a lot of times you might think you're doing it right, but in reality, you're probably doing it wrong. It's how you interpreted it wrong, and you interpreted how it connects to the next phase of your stroke incorrectly. Or you overemphasize the importance of a specific type of what it can do. And a lot of times if it's swimming, find two things that you can do really, 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 really well and maximize those, and it will totally cancel out anything that you do that's terrible. And most people again, they spend way too much time to get it perfect and not enough time just getting better. And that's like, as you read down, like, the comments below, Amy's like, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same thing. Like, and I've seen two of these athletes swim, and I know for a fact you don't move your arms fast enough. And you're not, again, we always think that we are, because as a species, we all think that we're special, but a lot of times it's, you think you're doing things the exact way, but you're really not. Like Amy's example, some of my good friends and training buds, an amazing swimmer. She swam her whole life. I watch her swim, and she swims 120 pace. And I think to myself, exactly, that's exactly what I'm doing and look like, yet I'm swimming 220 pace. So the answer is you're not. You can't be doing the same exact thing at a 120 pace and 220, because knowing what I know about you, maybe I don't know you personally, but from your comments and history in the group, like, you're a very accomplished triathlete. You've raced for a long period of time. So I mean, it's not a fitness thing. It's a stroke mechanic thing. And so you just need to find the right way to either, one, get somebody there with you, to focus on it, or have honestly, a lot of it's the right programming. A lot of people are just not very good at programming swims, or you think you have the right thing programmed, but programming and swimming is not rocket science, but you can do that without even looking at somebody. You can allow them to get faster. And below that, Christy said, "I'm with you. I just can't seem to improve. I learned to swim at 61, but I was good. I was a good floater and could doggy paddle." I'd argue that that's honestly like 2/5 of the battle. Like, I actually have a lot of swimmers doggy paddle as part of their warm up, because it teaches you to make sure you have good body position. It teaches you to have feel for the water in your forearm. So you're there. It just takes it takes a lot of the right type of effort in the right areas, not spreading it way too thin. Like, to me, it's not laying on a bed of nails where you have to lay out perfectly for it not to hurt. To me, it's about finding 2 or 3 nails that just fucking hammer and get it right, and it will totally negate all the rest of your flaws, instead of, again, having a lot of okay things done right, or what you think is done right, and then not doing it correctly at all, and then having your one major option or major flaw negating all of your other stuff.
Yeah, and it's just a subtle improvement sometimes. I think it's hard to recognize too, right? If you're trying to improve whatever, well, she was just, that last example is a minute, 100. That's a big deal. But it's like if you're at 220, I mean, if you can get to 215, that's like a big win, right? So, but it doesn't seem like it, And I mean, because I am the perfect example in a lot of ways. I've been through this for 10 or 11 years and just picking it up late and trying to get better and whatnot. And, I've done a lot of work, but I haven't done what you're saying. And I don't expect to be, I would like to. I mean, I think everybody wants to be a fast swimmer. It's one of those things. It's kind of sexy to swim a 115, 100 or something like that, or low. But I've come to the realization that it's just like my bike. I just don't put enough time into it to really, I have to come to grips with it sometimes. And, even when I'm in good swim shape, and a couple of years ago, swimming a lot in the pool, major yardage, and I was pretty comfortably around 130, 100, even in the end of the set or middle or whatever, if I wanted to be. But I realize that when I get into the open water and swim an Ironman, I'm usually about 2-minute pace. And I just I've kind of accepted it. I don't want to say that I can't do better, but I mean, the effort level, this point in my life, doesn't necessarily seem worth sweating about too hard. It's like, maybe I can get that to a 150 if I swim really well, So, I don't know. There's a lot. I think it's hard to accept too, sometimes, but I'm not saying you can't improve, but you pointed out every single time you have to swim at least 3 times a week and put a lot of yardage in. I mean, we're just, how do we think that, would you swim every week growing up, 20,000 yards or something?
Oh God, yeah, more than that, like 5 days a week.
You're baking that into your system. You do it, rolling out of bed when we're, you don't even, I'm sure you don't think about form a hell of a lot when you're swimming, do you?
When I'm just getting back in the water, I will. But I mean, what you said, I think, is also a great point, because this spans across all 3 disciplines. Is, when you look at, each athlete, and I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, is when an athlete comes to you and they have like you always look at time in sport. And that's how quickly an athlete can pick something up, how durable they are, how, good they're going to be. If you look at your, for me, like, again, like, I, not every year, 3 times a week year round, but like, I started swimming, competitively when I was 6. And so if you take because I always take like athletes' discipline age, like my swim age is, 38. I've been swimming for 38 years. Just fucking know how to do it. My running age is, back to, playing in high school. My cycling, so like, 25 plus years. My cycling age, generally, like, actual cycling is probably 13 years, so all that plays into it, which is why cycling's been my weakness. I'm at the lowest age. So if you come to the sport new, even if you've been running and cycling for 15 years, you had a huge run background, you ever run a run age of 35, and your swim age is a year and a half. Like, that's nothing. It's nothing. To me, it's like a person coming to you that just wants to run and they've never run in their life. And they're like, I just can't understand why I can't get my 5K under 20 minutes. Like, it doesn't work like that. And it's so you have to be able to focus on things and also understand how new you are to it. Yes, it does. I mean, we just had one of our other coaches who's been working with a new athlete who's never swam before in their life, and they're already down to swimming in like the 130s, 140s. Like it can be done. Some people might take longer, but again, a lot of time, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves of swimming, and this is why I'm, there are a lot of great swim coaches out there, but there are also a lot of terrible ones. Is the nature in which you get coached, especially early on when you're learning and developing, plays a huge factor in how quickly you can get fast. Because unwiring somebody's wiring is so much more difficult than wiring it right the first time. And so when you get these people who have never swam before, a lot of times they're so much easier to coach. They just do it right. They simplify it. They don't have 45 different thoughts and 28 different opinions and 125 triathlete magazine articles and 16 Facebook posts to question why they're doing something because they've been told you need to do it differently. They just do it right the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, well, they do.
Breaking bad habits is the hardest part of any coach's job, especially when it comes to swimming.
I think it goes across the board because, like you said, you could teach them the right way, and then, like we said, you have to put in the time with it then, right? But then you don't have enough time, so the next thing you know, you're seeing an ad on Instagram and you're going a whole different way, and then you got to rewire that and rewire. You know what I mean? It's like I think that happens a lot with everything. It's like I'm gonna try something new. Like you're saying, it's like how about just get to the grind?
Yep, I totally agree. Next question, Milena. I just can't feel or grab the water. I've been told I'm always in a fight to make cutoffs. I learned to swim in my late 30s, so I wonder if this is just something going to be me forever. I try to seek help. Everyone says something different. I dislike the fact that I have to be picky with which race to register for because I'm a weak swimmer, not to mention my swim panic attacks that I get every now and then. I'm consistent, but that helps in confidence, but not in the speed, efficiency, or strength. End of rant. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of athletes' frustration and struggle. Is that, and I think, and you nailed it, is allowing athletes to get to me, that is at like one of the top pieces of like the hierarchy and getting an adult onset swimmer to swim fast. And it has nothing to do with stroke mechanics. If you can't feel the water, you will never swim well. That's just a fact. If you cannot feel how to grab and the pressure against your forearm and against your hand and how you can feel that, you will never be a good swimmer. And that is where outside of breathing, that is where every coach should start, right? Like at our camp stuff, we focus on breathing. If you can't breathe right, it doesn't matter. You be hyperventilating and go slow, you'll be done. Head position, again, like working front to back. Getting a feel for the water is the most important thing you can do on a stroke mechanic side. And a lot of the things that we do have absolutely, besides sculling, which is, every athlete's least favorite thing to do, put a pull between your legs, do front scull, and I had to get athletes out of the water in a huge line to even show them how to scull at the camp we did in Texas. But then doing things like fist drill, doing things like one arm drill, doing things like doggy paddle, honestly. All these things to gain and get feel, because once you've got it, now you know when you don't. And to me, that's the correction, right? We spend way too many times trying to drill our way through as being great at swimming. That's not the answer. Drills are to highlight what you should feel. Let me say this, and it might not make sense to start. Drills are meant to give you things to highlight the way you should feel, not to tell you what to do. Because when you're swimming, right, in a pool, it's controlled. You stop every 25 minutes. When you get in open water, you can't do that. You can't stop at 25, reset. Okay, now I made it to the first buoy. Now I'm going to really continue to focus on my hand entry, my early vertical forearm. This is what I need to do. All right, next buoy. Now I'm going to start over again. I lost it. You have to do it in real time. In real time. That's why most athletes, their first 100 is their is their fastest. They swim one, they swim way too hard, but they swim right. Then after that, they go right back to the way they've always swam, which is poor form, no feel, turn into the water. Drills are meant to tell you what swimming should feel like, not tell you exactly what to do. When an athlete comes to one of our swim camps, or does some analysis, or that we text with or whatever, when they do the drill, I don't give, if you got ears, if you got young ears in the car, cover them. I don't give a flying fuck what your stroke looks like if you can't feel the water. When an athlete does a drill or comes back, I don't ask them, you should see how you look. Your stroke is perfect. You should be on the front of Swimming Glamour magazine. You look perfect. What I ask him is, how did that feel? What did you feel? Don't care what it looked like. What did you feel? Oh, I felt the pressure against like my forearms. I could feel the pressure. That's 90% of the way to go with swimming. If you can feel the pressure pulling back, then you're pushing. That's how you go forward, right? Pushing water back, high in the water makes you go forward. If you can't feel it, you're doing it wrong. And so that should be the number one thing to do, is get you to feel the water, which is actually, unless you have something to add, actually like goes right back into our next question. But I don't want to jump, because I know feel for the water for you has been like a love and hate relationship the past 8-9 years.
Yeah, well, it's a bit enigmatic. I mean, it's one of those things where it just kind of comes and goes a little bit, and I don't necessarily know. I think it's like everything else. You have to do it a lot to really understand what you're feeling, I also think that, for me, and when I'm swimming a lot, I start to get a feel. And we've talked about that many times. Like if like big swimmers, Phelps used to talk about, if he misses 2 days, he loses his feel for the water. And what you're saying is sometimes that first 100 or 200, you're going faster and you're probably feeling the water a little bit. But then, there's something about, when you're grabbing, getting a good catch and you got a lot of water in your forearm and you're pulling back a lot of water, you lose fatigue, and then over time your arm just starts slipping, and I think it's so much of this to me is about just fitness and getting a lot of swimming in. But, yeah, so, in a way, slowing down.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Okay.
The best swimming you've ever done was when? And I remember when it was happening. You committed to doing what?
Swimming.
Oh, but you did like what, a month straight?
Oh yeah, going into Louisville. Yeah, it was almost like, I think it was like 3 weeks every day, because I was so afraid of the non-wetsuit situation up there.
You didn't even swim long, right?
I was swimming 1,200, something like that.
Yeah, okay. And that's all feel.
Yeah.
And it's just like if you talk to somebody and like no one goes out for their first run in 3 months and like, oh, dude, I was flowing it today. I was just in the zone. I was connected. My run form was great. I felt efficient. Hell no. Like no one feels like that, because you just got off the couch and decided to run. Swimming is 20 times that. And that's why, like, again, like going into tapers and stuff specifically, like way too many people who don't have a good feel for the water, you should be swimming more.
Mm-hmm.
Not for long, 800,000 yards. Again, people are so obsessed with like the distance, and yes, you need to swim plenty to have the fitness, but it doesn't matter if you don't have the feel. If you got 3 hours a week, a lot of times break that up into 6 30-minute spots and just keep the feel for the water. You would be better off, because feel and pressure means fast, and you're doing it right. And that's like, again, like when you want to get better at something, you don't say, hey, you know what? Come to me 8 times this month and we'll get better. Twice a week. You're not going to get, or, for 8 hours. Or I said, come to me or put focus in 20, 25 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day on getting better. I take that, give me that person. I'm that person right now, because what they're going to do, one is they're going to do 2 or 3 things right. They're going to keep doing it right. They're going to have people. Then you work on the distance. A lot of people try to do all of it at the same time, which is a huge problem. So again, going back to your question, I would say that, and that's Teresa's next question. I would love for you to share your thoughts on using the CSS test to identify zones and how swimming easier and slowing it down really helps. Your workouts have helped me become more efficient with less effort, and I'm not draining over the pool anymore. There's another perfect example. But to me, Yes, a lot of swimmers don't know how to swim fast. So I am a proponent of that. We do want our swimmers to swim fast and know what it's like to feel fast. But forcing swimmers to slow down, right? A lot of swimmers will comment, I've only got two speeds. I've got fast and don't drown. And that's it. They don't have anything else. That's the only two speeds they got. Fast and don't drown. They in the stroke is actually probably pretty similar. Well, when you slow a person down, and a lot of times people's body positioning is dictated by their stroke rate and how hard they're going, how hard they're kicking. Well, you're not focusing on anything but moving your limbs. I see a ton of limb swimmers. You're not swimming. You're just moving your limbs in the water and hoping to get from point A to B at a decent time. Again, going back to what Elena questioned, so the slower you swim, the more feel you have to have for the water. And you brought up, and I know one of my favorite words is slip. A lot of athletes slip through the water. Like they are moving their arms within the water and trying to slip through. And again, a lot of it is just bad coaching, bad technique, but a lot of it is also just how we're wired as humans, right? We want to take the path of least resistance. So slipping your arms through the water is least resistance. Feeling pressure on your hands, pressure on your forearms, having muscles fatigue, right? That's what it should feel like. Oh, but I don't want to get tired when I swim. Well, then that's fine, but you're going to be slow for forever. Because you're going to do the same stroke. You're not using any muscle. So if you're not using any muscle, you're not using your lats, you're not, getting your arm early, you're not having your hand and your forearm facing backward. No wonder you don't feel fatigue. You're just moving limbs, baby. And unless you work for a tree service, that's not your job. Your job is to get from one in the pool to the next. But when you slow someone down and force them to, because when you think about like doing things correctly, it is really, really hard to stay connected. And again, this is all about feel. What did you feel? Because to me, it's not about having you swim slower. It's about teaching you what to feel. Oh, I can feel when my hand enters correctly. I can feel when my hand starts to slip. I can feel when my trunk starts to, go down. I can feel when I don't get pressure on the finish. I can feel when my timing is off because it's mindful. You're doing things with a purpose. And you have to, again, think of everything as a unit, not as thinking through, okay, reach far out. Don't cross over. Hand down. Early vertical forearm. Push backwards. Oh shit, my toenails are touching the bottom. Start over again. And you're like, no, you have to, honestly, that's the thing. You have to feel it all together. So you work in pieces. How should this feel? How should this feel? And then when you go slower, which is what we've seen a ton of improvement with a ton of athletes recently, is slowing them down to the point, again, it's not slowing them down to get slower. It's forcing them to be more mindful as they swim, because if you can control, feel, pressure, pull, body positioning, don't even talk to me about rhythm. Don't even talk to me about rotation. Don't even talk to me about kick. Throw it in the trash can. Leave it. Period. Because most people over rotate. And then when they breathe, they check the sky for the weather. Like, give me feel, pressure, pull, and position. Done. You're a faster swimmer. And so when you slow someone down, they have to think through that all together and connect those links in a chain. Now you go right back up to the top where you talk about, Amy was like, I feel like I'm doing everything right and I'm swimming 220s, but that my friend is swimming 120s. That's the difference in 220s and 120s. Is efficiency. And again, I would throw kick, rotation, all that stuff out the window and focus on those and what you can do to feel those. And because again, it's about what you feel. When someone goes, like Mike, if I said, go out and hop on the bike and spin at 120 cadence. This is a lot of athletes when they swim. You would feel like you were working really hard to spin super hard. And it would feel pretty uncoordinated, right? A lot of waste energy, super uncoordinated, kind of flailing, and you feel totally out of control. At lower watts probably and lower speed. But if I said, Mike, go out and find, give me your sweet spot, your grinder, your most efficient. Maybe you drop down to like, you probably 65, 70. How's that feel? I feel smooth. Feel strong. I can feel the entirety of the 360 degrees of the pedal stroke. Heart rate's down. This is the speed. I can feel it, and you're in control. That is the difference in slowing someone down to do it right and feel it versus flailing with limbs and swimming erratically.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth there, because I was going to go into that, big gear analogy, because we do a lot of big gear stuff on the bike, slow cadence, and we also try to do high cadence. It's both very important, because, like you said, the sweet spot is what we're looking for. And for me, the slow cadence on the bike, I mean, I've been cycling my whole life, swim year or bike years. I probably got 50 or more on it. So, but I can still tell my left leg is out of whack sometimes. It just sort of loses that, like you're saying, feel. I like to say it's a connection to the activity. And a lot of that goes into my swim too, because my right arm tends to overpower. And that's what happens. Especially when you're going harder, you're like, well, I'm just going to start taking over with this side of it. And that is what it is. But it's so important to create that feeling, like you're saying, that connection to your brain. And that slower swimming or slower cycling is really about that. It isn't about going fast. It's about connecting those things so you can go faster. The best, like I said, they're not thinking about it. They're just swimming, and it's just happening. But I'm sure that, just to think about it, you call them limb swimmers, and they're probably, like half the stroke is probably kind of wasted in a sense, because the point of least resistance or whatever it may be. But it's kind of like this overthinking. What am I do? Where's this need to be? And you're not just doing it, you're thinking it. So yeah, I do think that slower swimming, and it's like, it's back to that run slow to get fast. It doesn't mean go slow per se. It just means be more pronounced and be more connected to what's going on and feel it.
Nailed it. I mean, you said it perfectly, because again, that's the feedback that you get as a swimmer when you're doing it right. That took less energy and I was faster. Checkbox.
Yeah.
Again, it's not going slow. It's doing it right. Right. And if you do it right, it should look slow because it's connected. It's not 19 different parts. And you said something too that resonated to me a lot about athlete age. Your athlete age on the bike is probably, like you said, 50, 60. My athlete age is probably like 10 or 12. I'd say in the last 8 to 9 years, I put in significantly more bike volume than you. But between the two of us, who's the best bike handler?
Well, it's
easily.
Just, but yeah, I mean,
yeah. So like when you talk, but I think it's just a great point to highlight in the feel, and yes, doing it early is a huge deal, right? And you still have that in your brain, how to move, how to think, how to do this, and you're a much better bike handler than I am. And so again, it to me, that's what another highlight. It trumps the volume card. The more you do it. It's about knowing what it feels like to do it right and having that in your body, having that in your system. Which again, to me, goes back to like, when you swam like, those 3 weeks straight of 1,200 yards, getting ready for a full.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the best you felt in the pool, because it's about feeling it. And to me, again, like, again, you said, when you talked about slowing down, it's not about going slow. It's about, because the thing happens that when you do it correctly, you don't rush through to get to the next one, because all you're doing is rushing through to get things wrong. That's why your cadence is so high, and that's why you go nowhere. Because if you're really getting pressure against the water and pulling it, you cannot move your arms at an insane high stroke rate for age group of triathletes, because you're pressing, you're getting resistance. So again, like, when you think about it, again, most people just focus on all the wrong things, which is exactly why people get so frustrated. They put a lot of time, a lot of effort focusing on all the wrong things and how to do the perfect drills, and grabbing my snorkel and grabbing my fins and grabbing my, my pool bag. It looks like you're, walking down the street at, Woodstock, getting ready to camp out for the next 3 months, and you can't get faster. And it's not about what you do. It's about how you feel. So find whatever it is to make you feel a certain way. And that might be something different than somebody else. Totally different. Might click totally different. And then you say then do it over again. Do it over again. Because now once you know what it feels like, then you can know what it's like. Then you know when you don't feel like it, and then you correct it in real time, right? Middle of your 7.3, middle of your full, middle Olympic. You can't stop like, coach, I lost my feel for the water. I my head position's a little bit off. Give me the kayak. Give me the snorkel and the fins. I'm not feeling taut. I need to get higher in the water. I need to fix this real quick. Never going to happen. So if you can't troubleshoot while you swim, because you don't know what it feels like, you can't remove the drill and include the feel, you're never going to get it. So stop using like endless amounts of toys to make you feel something when they're totally useless when it comes to getting you in the water to feel it. Once you felt it, and let's say you're starting out with drills, now start removing them. Real-time swimming, real-time correction, real-time focus. And again, because when you get thrown in the water, that's why when the same argument when people, hey, but you've got to be able to breathe on both sides. You've got to bilateral breathe, which is garbage. Because what if the sun is coming in your eyes? What if the waves are coming from a different direction? What if the buoys are on a different side? Let me tell you right now. I take this method. If you were in the middle of the ocean, you got dropped off the ship from the Coast Guard, and you had to swim 5 miles to shore, would you even care what side you breathed on? Nope. You would think flight or fight. Which one? What is my fight stroke? Breathing to the right. Done. You wouldn't care where the sun was. You wouldn't care at all. I was swimming, I don't know how many triathlons with some of the craziest conditions. Even when I did like open water rescue like competitions when I worked down in Hilton Head, you don't care. I never breathe to the left. I can breathe to the left. I do it every single time I swim. I choose a side to face, and I swim to face, and I face the lifeguard. So I swim down, breathing right, swim down. So I can breathe perfectly fine, doing both. But when I get into a race, I'm right every time. And again, most people they spend way too much time trying to work on 45 different things. And let me just get the simplest things right and stop worrying about so many additional things that I'm probably never going to pick up because I'm never going to focus on them long enough to get them right in the first place. I know this might come out as like kind of harsh, but it's no, it's
just, I get it, man.
It's frustrating to me because the answer is out there, and it's frustrating to see so many athletes struggle with swimming and how difficult it can be when it doesn't have to be that way, and just how overcomplicated people are when it comes to swimming.
It's we talk about mechanics a lot and doing things right and form and things like that. And like I said yesterday, I got in my wetsuit, and my first time I got in the water, it's about 100 yards out to this island out by here. And that was my swim. And then I came back, I felt okay, but then I got tired, like on the third one, and then I decided to shorten it. So then I went to the sides, and it's about 35 yards or something like that. And that felt fine. And I think we get in our heads, okay, we're training for 4,400 yards, and it's like that becomes I just need to be able to do that straight. But when you have good technique and good form and mechanics, that stuff just becomes easier, and you just build that, and build that connection to your head. And now you're just a better swimmer. And it's like, the thing is am I fit enough to swim further? I know I am, but I'm just so out of practice with, like, we're talking about feel for the water and just the way my body is moving right now and everything like that. I would imagine within a week or something like that, I'll be probably swimming, pretty far without problem. It'll just come back. But I think you have to have that thing, it's, my analogy is on the bike. It's like, if I'm doing slow cadence, say it's like 60, and then I'll go up to, like, what I'll try to do sometimes is go into easier gear and try to keep that power, for example, and just go high cadence and see and find that. But I don't do it for long, right? So I think there's something to be said for that in swimming too. We just don't have the fitness sometimes to go hard for a long time. But if you get that, it's almost like strides in the water, in a sense. It's like, you got a nice feel, try it a little harder, and then just, but not until you're losing form all over the place again, but just kind of pepper it in and start working on controlling those feelings at a little faster pace. And just, that's how I think how you get better. You know, it's not just going hard all the time with bad form. It's just like cementing the form, getting a little bit faster, pushing it a little bit, and then kind of sinking back into where you were, and then going back and forth kind of thing. You do, there's a lot of swim workouts, 50s, where you go 35 hard and then you just cruise. That type of stuff, I think, is very valuable in this sport in general.
No, I totally agree. Let's see. Next question. Kaylee Larkin, is there a benchmark to knowing when you have progressed enough that using a band will be helpful? You know, that's an excellent question. And to me, you know, so a lot of times we'll do band only, like 25s or 50s, which very few people can do, like band only. But then other times we'll do band and pull buoy only. And a lot of people think that, yeah, okay, so yes, band only, you need to be, in my opinion, like under 135 hundreds consistently, no issue to be able to do that. You have the right form, the right fitness, and the right body position, or you're just gonna fall. Like a lot of times I'll use the band only drill as an example at the swim camps to talk about like how important, like how you can how you can have high body positioning with no kick. And I'll tie my legs together, and then swim from one end of the pool to the other with my legs totally, or my ankles totally tied together with no kicking, no movement at all, no rotation, you know, no big wiggling, and I can stay perfectly high in the water. So it has nothing to do with kicking. It's about body positioning. Now, one of the ways that I like to use the band, again, isn't so much about having a strength or a speed benchmark. It's more about getting you to recognize what's needed for fast, straight swimming. And it's actually, I use it a lot to correct people's over rotation. Because if you're and teach people how to do a hip drive instead of a hip rotate. So you can drive, like you take the balls to your hips and you can drive them forward. That's how you should gain your reach and your momentum and your early vertical form to kind of help you get there. A lot of people, you know, if you take your, you know, so take your hands right now, close them like you are driving a car, right? You're at the typical, you know, you're not at 10 and 2, we'll call it 3 and 6, or excuse me, 3 and a 9. That's how people move their hips. And just drive it, right? You're going left and right, left and right. That's how people over rotate their hips. And I'm talking about over rotate out of the water, opening up your torso to the east and the west, limiting forward motion, and you're not even getting that much of a reach. Now, if you kind of stop your hands, and then you take those hands that are perfectly positioned at 3 and 6, and now you turn your thumbs towards the inside of the clock. So now your fist is facing out. What you should be doing is hip driving. So driving it forward. So now you're punching. That's how you should drive to get forward. All motion should be generated forward. That's why when you see these really awesome open water swimmers swim, they swim so high in the water. You don't see them opening up. So yes, you're always going to open up some. But to me, that's why you put a band, because you makes your hips stay on the stay pointed towards the bottom. It also helps you not open up too wide on your breathing, and it also helps show you what it's like to control your lower half of your body, because most triathletes have a horrendous kick that slows them down a ton. And going back to Amy's original question, if you're, I can probably tell you this with a high degree of confidence. If your stroke is perfect and you have the worst kick ever and you're a big kicker, that's why you can't swim fast. Is that your kick is probably inhibiting your ability. So again, band is not so much. Yes, band only is high turnover. It's a strength thing. It is higher level. I'd say 135s, maybe below 130s. But buoy and buoy and band is a great way to work on strength. It's a way to work on, again, to me, it's not about the drill and the fitness. It's about the drill and the purpose and what you want to feel. Okay, I wasn't wiggling, right? I had a wiggler lane at the camp I did here, about 6 months ago. You guys wiggle too much, buoy and bend. Oh, I'm gonna be so much slower, and you're faster because you're not wasting east and west movement. So again, these drills aren't meant to get you better at a drill. It's meant to get you to feel things in a specific way. That way you can do them right when you regularly swim. And that's why when you incorporate these things, you should always incorporate swimming within it so you can immediately apply what you just felt into your next swim.
I agree, man. As much of a pain in the ass as it is putting that band on sometimes and then taking it off. I like to kind of go back and forth sometimes. That's another way to connect that feeling. 50 down, then swim a little bit. Try it
Yeah,
again.
I mean, yeah, nailed it. It's technique and application, right? And a lot of athletes, when they do these drills, they print it off the internet or the plan they print off, or the magazine or whatever it is. Like they don't even know why or what the purpose is to do. They just do the drill. I could do 17 different drills, and if I don't know what the feel is supposed to feel like, how do you know if I'm doing it right? And how the hell do I apply it to my swim stroke? Again, a huge reason why people struggle. And I ask people this all the time. Like when we do this, we work on the swimming is, what do you think? And then I ask them why, and they're like, I don't know. I just read that. Then how do you even know what place it's supposed to be or its place in your swim stroke? You're just spending time on drills to do drills. You don't know where they fit, right? I have no idea where it fits. Okay, then why am I doing it? Like if you added in some like crazy, weird, waste of time stuff and like cycling, like right now, you want to sprint on the bike, and then you want to take one leg off, and you want to stand, then you want to stand, and you pedal real hard. You'd be like, why the fuck am I doing that? All I need to do is pedal. Like, well, it makes you feel like, no, I just want to pedal. Like you need to know why you're doing things, and a lot of people don't question the why they're spending so much time and effort on these drills, and they don't even know what place they're in terms of the swim stroke, which is again like it's why, and you just get slower and stagnant. Maybe I got a question for one more. We'll probably have to do there's a ton of questions. I'll probably try to do a part B of this on Thursday.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Chris, you got to go swim. I think the mystery of feeling like you're doing it right. Oh, excuse me. I think the mystery of feeling like you're doing it right, but how do you actually know? I think I'm doing my stroke correctly, but it is very possible that I only think I'm doing it right and still have it wrong, as I am only slightly making improvements. How do you actually know? Just videotaping and have someone look at it? Any recommendations? Will working on strengthening up my lats help with fatigue, or is it no? Feel and pressure. I've never heard a swim coach say, if you want to be better at swimming, hit the gym. If you want to get better at pull-ups, do pull-ups. But the strength that you need, again, to do 5 pull-ups is not the same that you need to do what? Think about how many repetitions you do. Like to me, when someone says, "Oh, I need to do," I saw this comment below. Yes, strength and bench press, and this will make you faster at swimming. If you think about how many revolutions your arm does in an Ironman, hundreds of thousands, not hundred thousand, but like thousands of revolutions, thousands and thousands of revolutions during that. Your 5 pull-ups aren't making a dent in any of those. Like that's like telling someone that your 5 rep squat max is going to be the determining factor on if you qualify for Boston or not, because that's how many steps you're going to take in a marathon. If first, before you even work on that, maybe work on just knowing what it feels like to engage your lats and then feel the water. Because again, like, when you triage like this comment as a swimmer, I don't know what I'm doing right. Then strengthening your lats doesn't do anything. In order to have a great stroke, you have to feel your hands and your forearm to then engage your lats. So again, don't skip parts A, B, C, D, and E just to try to get stronger enough when you may never get there. Right? Maybe do the rest. It's to me, it's kind of like you go buy a property out in the middle of nowhere and there's nobody around, and the shack is like it needs $500,000 of work. To me, that's like going in the first thing you do. Like, you know what we need out here? A security system. That's what we need. I'm gonna get one of those fancy security systems and have that installed. When you haven't done any work on the actual house to make it worth protecting. You fix the house first, you get it to how you want to be, and then you decide if you want a security system. That's what I feel about strength training when it comes to swimming, and like, pull-ups and lat downs and push-ups. They look good. They're good for the beach. They're good for Muscle Beach down in Cali, but that's about it. But to your question, we'll wrap it up. What you need to do is have somebody, because again, swim analysis, video swim analysis can be great, but it doesn't allow you to feel things. You just taped what you felt. Then you have to go back in and try to feel what somebody told you to feel. What you really need is programming to allow you opportunities, again, while you're swimming, to feel things. So like when we do like presets and quote unquote drills or things to accentuate like what something should feel like, then that, like, to me, the best running quote unquote drill are strides. And you know what you do when you're striding? You're running. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't come to me and Mike's like, hey man, I went to the gym the other day and I did 45 minutes of agility work on the step ladders, and I feel like a totally different runner, man. Totally. No, strides make you feel fast, make you feel fluid. It's how you do it right. That's why it's such a great drill that also incorporates, speed and running fast, and then you fall right. Because guess what everybody says? Like, you do the Moneghetti run that we do, or they do intervals. What does everybody say when they're done doing like on and offs? Like on is fast, off is like easy. What do they always say? Oh man, when I got done with those, like my easy running felt so much easier, and I was going faster.
Mm-hmm.
They don't say that when you have them run for 20 minutes. All right, stop what you're doing. Now I want you to do about 10 minutes of planks and some skips, and to break your run form down. And it's 40 calf raises, and then you start back running again. You know what you feel? Disjointed, not fluid. And so what you need to do is have correct programming installed in what you're doing to allow you ways to feel that, not just to do it. Again, it's all about feel. And we'll wrap it up because, man, we got like a whole lot of questions that we can get to on whatever day that's supposed to be. Thursday. Yeah, that's right, Thursday.
Yeah. And I'll leave you with my favorite saying: just don't think about it so much.
You're so right though, because it's so simple, right? Because if you think about it, you're never going to feel it because you're too worried about thinking, and you got to feel it. But yeah, you nailed it. It's such a great point. As always, we love you guys, and first and foremost, thank you for participating in something like that. These are a lot of fun to do. As you can tell, I get a little bit passionate about doing it, but it's also because I believe everybody can get better at swimming. So we'll come back on Thursday and finish these off. If you, as always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and there's a one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. Speaking of camps, we still have some spots open for our June camp. Speaking of swim help, if you want some swim help, we've got 2 pool sessions and an open water session there. We got those camps you're listed on our website. Again, that's c26triathlon.com. So come to that one. We've also got some open water work at our Wisconsin camp. That is also still have some spots available. So again, if you want work and you want them in real time and you want to get somebody on deck to fix it, check out those camps and get into them while you can. Or if you just want help in overall training, you can check out our coach request form and look at the coaches that we have. Whether you're looking at just triathlon coaching, you want some help with just your swimming or just your cycling or just your running, we have somebody that's right for you. And as always, if you need anything from Mike, he is available, Mike at c26triathlon.com. Or if you need anything from me specifically, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right.
That's all we got, dude.
Let's wrap it up.
All right, man. We'll see you Thursday.
Sounds good, man. See you.
Good.